The discovery of never-before-seen photographs has led to a new theory about the sinking of the Titanic.
A treasure trove of photographs, gathering dust in an attic for more than 100 years, finally made public.
This is the Titanic equivalent of King Tutankhamun's tomb.
There's two of them that show marks on the ship's exterior that look like it's somehow affected by something going inside the wall.
More than 100 years later, the Titanic still refuses to stay silent. Preserved in fragile photographs are moments of elegance, ordinary routines, and lives unaware of what was coming next. For decades, these images were studied, catalogued, and then left untouched, until modern technology began revealing details no human eye could clearly see before. Enhanced scans now expose expressions once lost to time, markings hidden in the shadows, and subtle clues that challenge what we thought we knew about the disaster. One particular photograph stunned researchers when they magnified a single section, because what appeared wasn't part of the official record. From rarely seen views of the ship's final days to personal items frozen in history, these photographs are more than documentation. They are silent witnesses. Today, we explore 30 remarkable Titanic images and the unsettling truths they continue to reveal. The iceberg that doomed the ship. 2 days before the Titanic's sinking, Captain W. Wood of the SS Etonian captured a black-and-white photograph of a massive iceberg while crossing the Atlantic. He carefully recorded its coordinates just miles from where the Titanic would collide with an iceberg on April 14, 1912. AI analysis of the image confirms a striking match to survivor sketches, adding weight to the belief that this was the iceberg. Wood developed the photo upon his arrival in New York, boldly inscribing on it that it had been the iceberg responsible. Forensic analysis of its shape and surface pattern revealed hair-raising accuracy according to historical accounts. It is thus unspeakably haunting among the few artifacts connected to Titanic's fate. If you thought that iceberg was chilling, just wait until you see the life-saving gear that wasn't so life-saving after all. Titanic's life vests. Titanic carried enough cork and canvas life vests for every passenger and crew member, over 2,000 in total. Photographs show their heavy cork pads sewn into canvas, secured only by thin fabric ties. Survivors recalled that when worn during jumps into the freezing Atlantic, the vest's buoyancy could snap necks or knock passengers unconscious on impact. Culpable as they were, these vests sustained some folks long enough to be rescued, although many perished of exposure. A handful of original Titanic life jackets still exist today, worn and weathered from water. One was sold at auction for $119,000 as an ever-so-diligent reminder of that disaster's cost in human lives. The boy on Titanic's deck. In April 1912, 6-year-old first-class passenger Robert Douglas Spedden was photographed playing with a spinning top on the Titanic's deck. The image, taken just days before the sinking, now enhanced with AI, reveals fine details: the weave of his coat, the polished wood beneath his feet, and the ship's railings reflected in the deck. Robert slept through the crash and woke for a moment as his nurse told him they would see the stars. He escaped by lifeboat, but sadly, 3 years later, he was slain in one of the earliest recorded automobile accidents in Maine. The gymnasium. Titanic's gymnasium, positioned on the boat deck beside the grand staircase, was astonishing for its era, featuring electric camels, rowing machines, and stationary bicycles. A eye enhancement of surviving photographs exposes floor scuffs, mirror smudges, and glowing oak paneling in striking clarity, preserving the movement of passengers enjoying the space during the final days. First-class passengers paid a shilling for a session with the physical instructor, T.W.W. Macaulay. He was believed to have remained at his post in the gymnasium until the night of Titanic's sinking, when he died with the vessel. Lifeboats Waiting in Vain, a photograph taken by Reverend F.M. Brown, who disembarked before the catastrophe, shows Titanic's lifeboats carefully stowed beside the bridge. The ship carried 20 lifeboats, sufficient for barely half the people aboard, yet more than demanded by outdated maritime law. AI image scaling verifies their capacity could have saved everyone if there had been twice as many. That night, on April 14, 1912, many lifeboats were lowered partially filled because officers feared the lowering apparatus might fail under a full load. Earlier that morning, a lifeboat drill had been scheduled, but was cancelled. The compromised hull. A construction photograph of Titanic's hull at Harland and Wolff displays over 3 million iron and steel rivets fastening its plates. Recent analysis inspired by journalist Senan Mullany's research proposes a coal bunker fire before the maiden voyage may have weakened part of the hull. AI thermal imaging of the photograph shows faint heat distortion along one area of plating. This suspected heated zone, when Titanic struck the iceberg, could have torn far more easily, allowing flooding to spread at a much faster rate. This remains under debate. The theory adds a chilling dimension to the disaster, implying the ship's fate may have been decided before it ever left port. Launch day faces. On May 31, 1911, more than 100,000 people assembled in Belfast to witness Titanic's launch into the River Lagan. In photographs from that day, AI facial recognition has linked some dockside spectators to later images taken in Queenstown 3 days before the ship's final departure, including one man with no record of being a passenger or crew. 22 tons of soap and tallow were applied to ease the hull into the water for the launch operation, which lasted only 62 seconds. Film captures flashes of excitement across the crowd, unaware of the tragedy ahead. Second-class dining room. Titanic's second-class dining room, located on D-deck, could accommodate nearly 400 passengers at long mahogany tables secured to the floor. AI-enhanced images uncovered deep crimson upholstery and a date faintly carved into the wood paneling. April 10th, possibly etched by a passenger who later survived. After dinner, music was played by a band while meals were prepared in the same galley serving first class. The room offered notable elegance and comfort and ranked among the finest second-class accommodations of its era. The reading and writing room. Titanic's first-class reading and writing room, designed as a peaceful refuge mainly for women, was furnished with silk-covered chairs, tall windows, and Georgian-style decor. A eye-contrast enhancement of a surviving photo reveals the faint outline of a seated figure at the far window, someone never identified. Positioned on a deck near the lounge, it was a place where passengers could borrow books or write letters. Sadly, it saw little use during the voyage, making the presence of this mysterious figure even more intriguing. Titanic's smoking room. The first-class smoking room, set aside for men, featured inlaid mahogany, stained glass windows, and a fireplace crowned with Norman Wilkinson's painting, Approach to the New World. AI colorization of a final photograph captures the warm glow of the room, just as survivor accounts describe. They played cards here until dawn on April 14th. Major Archibald Butt, Francis Millet, and others then escaped into the night searching for safety. But some reportedly remained behind, waiting for the inevitable, making this space one of the last where life carried on as usual aboard the Titanic. Riveting danger. Construction photos of Titanic show workers fastening over 3 million rivets that held the steel plates together. Many were driven in by hand without safety equipment. AI-enhanced close-ups reveal tiny flaws and microcracks in several rivet heads, defects later discovered in recovered wreckage. There are even historians who believe these lower-quality rivets, especially in the ship's forward sections, can be blamed for hull failure after striking the iceberg. Whether or not they proved decisive, the photographs document the massive and dangerous labor involved in building the so-called unsinkable ship. The Captain's Inspection. A candid photograph depicts Captain Edward J. Smith during a deck inspection in the days before Titanic's sinking. AI enhancement reveals two crew members in the background, later identified through genealogy to descendants unaware their relatives had served on the ship. During his regular inspections of the vessel, and while leading a church service on Sundays, Smith also skipped the normally scheduled lifeboat drill on that specific Sunday morning. The choice itself is regarded as one of the most debated omissions of the voyage. Children at play. A rare photograph shows children chasing a ball across Titanic's deck, a joyful moment before disaster. Eye enhancement reveals a faint white Star Line logo on the ball, suggesting it may have been a promotional item given to young passengers. Quite many children aboard were leaving their homelands with their families to begin a new life in America. As for first-class children, they had more deck space available to them for play. Such moments were shared by all. Fleeting glimpses of innocence on a doomed ship. Titanic's Grand Staircase. No original photographs of Titanic's Grand Staircase are known to survive. Using images of her sister ship Olympic and Nat Geo's 2025 digital recreation, AI has rebuilt the sweeping oak banisters, decorative wrought iron railings, and the domed skylight that filled the space with natural light. This grand area acted as a meeting point for first-class passengers only, and displayed the ship's highest level of luxury. The recreation lets modern audiences virtually walk into the most iconic interior of the legendary Titanic. Crew muster. A photograph of Titanic's crew gathered for muster shows a seemingly routine moment until it is enhanced. AI zoom analysis reveals one man gripping a folded paper, its edges visible between his fingers. Historians speculate it may have been an undocumented iceberg warning. Crew safety drills were required for all personnel, so they would understand their roles during emergencies. These drills were vital on Titanic's maiden voyage, yet evidence suggests safety procedures were not strictly enforced, adding an unsettling tone to what otherwise appears a simple group portrait. The Marconi Room. Titanic's Marconi Room contained the ship's wireless telegraph equipment, operated by Jack Phillips and Harold Bride. In a surviving photograph, AI enhancement reveals an open logbook on the desk with the faint words, "Ice Report, 14th of April." This small room became the vital link to nearby ships and shore stations. On the night of the disaster, Phillips and Bride worked relentlessly sending distress calls. Hundreds of lives were saved through their actions, even as Titanic's fate became unavoidable. Boat deck sunrise. An early morning photograph captures the quiet stretch of the North Atlantic from Titanic's boat deck. AI colorization brings out soft pink and golden tones along the horizon, matching survivor descriptions of the morning after the sinking. At the time, such a view would have felt ordinary to a passenger enjoying the fresh sea air. In hindsight, this peaceful image sharply contrasts with the death and destruction that would unfold on these same decks only days later. Titanic's kitchens. A photograph of Titanic's kitchens shows chefs standing proudly among polished copper pots and cooking ranges. AI enhancement highlights fine details, from tiled walls to a menu card resting on a shelf, now readable as listing the dishes served on April 14, 1912. The culinary crew prepared meals for more than 2,200 passengers and crew, ranging from elaborate multi-course dinners in first class to simple food for third-class travelers. First-class cabins. Titanic's first-class cabins were created for ultimate comfort, featuring rich wood paneling, soft bedding, and ornate furnishings. photographs reveal personal details left behind. An open jewelry case on a dresser, a folded letter on a writing desk. These luxurious private rooms reflected the lifestyle of the wealthiest passengers who traveled with fine clothing, jewelry, and sometimes servants. Today, the surviving photos, enhanced by AI, provide a rare glimpse into the luxury and refinement that defined Titanic as the greatest symbol of elite travel of her era. The officers' mess. A rare photograph of Titanic's officers' mess shows uniformed men seated around a carefully arranged table. AI enhancement reveals a wall clock showing 2:10, likely captured shortly before the gathering ended. This modest dining area gave senior officers a private place to eat and discuss the ship's operations beyond the hearing of passengers. The image freezes a moment of normal routine and fellowship just days before those officers would confront the unimaginable crisis of Titanic's sinking. Cargo hold loading. A photograph of Titanic's cargo hold shows dock workers loading luggage and freight on board. AI magnification draws attention to a trunk marked with the name S. Franklin, an individual missing from both passenger and crew records. The ship carried letters, valuable possessions, and personal items deep within her holds. Perishable goods bound for New York were loaded as well. These scenes of routine cargo handling stand in sharp contrast to the ship's fate, as most of this cargo sank with its secrets to the ocean floor. The first-class promenade. Titanic's first-class promenade ran along a deck, providing sheltered sea views through glass partitions. In a rare photograph, AI reflection analysis reveals the faint silhouette of a figure in the window, possibly the photographer, whose identity remains unknown. This was where wealthy passengers took early morning strolls and socialized, enjoying fresh air without exposure to harsh weather. In images like this, the elegance and quiet exclusivity of first-class life aboard the doomed liner becomes strikingly clear. The ship's bell. A clear photograph of Titanic's ship's bell displays its polished brass surface and delicate engraving. Eye magnification uncovers tiny patches of corrosion, unusual for such a new vessel. The bell, mounted near the forecastle, fell under the lookout's responsibility for signaling danger, sounding 3 sharp rings when an iceberg was spotted ahead. On the night of April 14, 1912, Lookout Frederick Fleet rang it moments before calling the bridge, a warning that came too late to prevent disaster. The Officers' Bridge. A photograph taken from Titanic's bridge captures the sweeping view over the bow. AI enhancement reveals a smudge on the glass windscreen, likely left by a gloved hand, perhaps belonging to an officer or lookout on duty. From this vantage point, Captain Smith and his officers guided the ship out of Southampton and across the North Atlantic. On the night of April 14th, the iceberg warning was received, and evasive action ordered only moments before impact at this very spot. The mailroom. A photograph of Titanic's mailroom shows postal clerks sorting letters among towering stacks of mailbags. AI enhancement makes part of an envelope readable, stating, "Deliver upon arrival in New York urgent." More than 3,400 mailbags were carried aboard the ship, making it both a passenger liner and a floating post office. On the night of the sinking, clerks reportedly worked to move registered mail to higher decks. Third-class general room. Titanic's third-class general room was a vibrant gathering place furnished with wooden tables and benches where passengers played cards, sang, and shared stories. In one photograph, AI enhancement reveals an unopened suitcase tucked into a corner, possibly the result of strict steerage luggage inspections. For many immigrants, this room represented both destination and purpose of travel. Its warmth stood in stark contrast to the harsh ordeal that most would soon endure in the freezing Atlantic. Engine room crew. A photograph of Titanic's engine room crew shows men standing before the ship's enormous turbines. AI motion blur reduction exposes the faint trace of steam rising from a pressure valve behind them. These crew members worked under intense heat and deafening noise. They operated the engines that drove the largest ship in the world. As the ship was sinking, many remained at their stations to keep lights and pumps running, making profound sacrifices. The lookout's post, a photograph of Titanic's lookout post, shows the base of the crow's nest ladder, set against the open sky. A eye-height mapping highlights the steep, exposed climb faced by lookouts such as Frederick Fleet on April 14, 1912. From this lofty position, Fleet first spotted the iceberg and raised the alarm before signaling the bridge. The image conveys the isolation and responsibility of this post and the constant vigilance demanded while navigating the icy North Atlantic route. A lifeboat drill that never happened. A photograph dated April 14th shows crew members assembled near Titanic's lifeboats, appearing ready for a drill. A eye analysis confirms the scene corresponds to the morning when the planned lifeboat exercise was suddenly cancelled by Captain Smith. This decision remains among the most criticized of the voyage, as regular drills might have improved both the speed and coordination of the real evacuation. Titanic's flags. A harbor photograph captures Titanic's White Star Line flags flying in the breeze. AI color restoration identifies the precise shade of crimson used, a hue unique to Titanic and her sister ship. These flags were more than decoration. They represented the ship's identity and the pride of her company. Bright on departure days, they stood as symbols of confidence against the sky on a voyage that would tragically never be finished. The Turkish baths. A rare interior photograph of Titanic's Turkish baths reveals ornate tiled walls, marble benches, and gentle lighting. AI scans detect faint watermarks along the lower tiles, possibly caused by a leak during sea trials. The facility was designed in the style of a Victorian spa, inspired by the vision of a seasoned traveler or pilgrim. Few ships of the era offered such luxury, let alone placed it so prominently as a symbol of Titanic's opulence and a reminder of the comforts lost when she sank. The barbershop. A photograph of Titanic's barbershop shows carefully arranged brushes, scissors, and bottles of hair tonic. AI enhancement renders the labels readable, revealing they were intended for the New York market, goods that would never arrive. The barbershop served not only as a grooming space, but also as a social hub where travelers exchanged news, rumors, and stories. If you liked this deep look into Titanic's secrets, tap that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more history brought to life. Don't stop here. Select the next video on your screen and continue uncovering the untold stories.